Alright, so as you may have noticed with my finale video thing, yeah, the ending got that whole blocked scene for recording type thing that I always hate when games do, which is unfortunate, and I'll probably wind up adding like a clip of the ending and credits and stuff into the playlist from like someone else that has it up. Obviously, it'll just be copy pasting their link, so it's not like I won't exactly be. So it's not like I'll be taking credit or anything. It'll clearly be them. It's just, yeah, it'll just be a case of so I have it in there for completion's sake. But yeah, I guess this is just where I do a little bit of post-game thoughts and bits on things for, even though clearly nobody asked for it, and honestly, if like a grand total of 5 people ever wind up watching this, I'll honestly be impressed. And if you are one of those 5 people, well, hey, it's appreciated. So yeah, I have to say I wasn't really like sure what to expect going into this, you know? Like the whole visual novel slash robot fighting thing. I mean, it's not something I'm unfamiliar with. I mean, you could argue that Front Mission 3, which is one of my favorite games that I actually did. I attempted it on a playthrough of, but for whatever reason, the recording stuff just never worked out for it, and I just like the story parts of that. A lot of it is like done sort of visual novel style when you're not like upgrading things and all of that. So you could argue that that's sort of the same, but that was a strategy RPG, so it was different. But yeah, I think other than the blocked scene thing, my only real gripe was sort of sometimes the battle system got a little off or repetitive. There was a period playing it where I just wanted to get like more story in because it had been left off at like some you know, good or interesting points or whatever, like with things, and I just wanted to finish those, but I wound up having to do a few videos of just stretches of the battles after battles, and that sort of burnt me out on it for a little bit, or a few days, because it kind of was like, well, I don't want to just do like 6 hours straight, or which is a complete, like, that's a stretch. It wasn't 6 hours straight, but you know, I didn't want to just keep doing a bunch of battle stuff, and that is sort of something that I do have to, in a sense, I can't fully blame the game for that, because I do have to admit that was, you know, that was my bad. Because obviously the game wants you to balance the two back and forth. You know, do like say 2 bits of story, then 2 battles, 2 bits of story, 2 battles. And I think had I reached a point where I was required to do more story instead of more battles, I probably would have been alright. alright with that reversal. But yeah, and as for the story itself, and characters and that, I did really enjoy it. I wasn't entirely sure like where things were going for a little bit, and the whole bit with it essentially being like the Matrix and all that is something, while I wasn't expecting it at times, it did make sense when you went back to look through things later. Especially when you consider like there were like the androids and like the artificial intelligences and all that. Though the whole universal control and kaiju thing, I wasn't always 100% behind, but it was still like, it was still well enough done, so I can recognize that even if I wasn't behind it, that wasn't for a lack of it being presented or done well, because it was. But I do think it would have been interesting to actually see what Earth looked like after like what's implied to be like thousands of years. um, because there's a chance that, hey, if whatever happened there, it would have maybe wound down, or maybe like the rest of the wildlife there would have been able to pick something up, and I don't know. You never fully know these things, and it could just, because there are things worked in where it could be like, oh, we just thought humanity was extinct, but blah blah blah, and it could create some weird thing between the people on the new planet and the people left behind on the old one. As for characters, I do have to admit my two favorite characters. Well, like there are a lot I like, but my two favorite, and this probably won't be a surprise, is Yuki and Natsuno's. Like I liked their storylines and stuff a lot, and Iori had some good stuff too, so I put her up there. And actually, you know what? Jiro and Shu stuff was nice. Ninja's was solid. Tomi's had good bits, but I do have to admit, even though I liked Megami, and even though I enjoy Christina V's work, there was still something odd about how she just so desperately went along with things that a talking cat said about like witches and all that. Though I get that it's little off at times, like, okay, just take a moment here. I didn't really care for Keitaro or A's stories comparatively. Like, they were still fine, but they always sort of end up being lesser on the priority scale. And Takatoshi's had some interesting stuff, but with him and Renya's, I feel them being locked behind so many things. Like, you had to do so many other people's stories and get so far to unlock them. It sort of was a little bit of a soury note on them. But like they were still good for what they were and the things that happened in them. Though I do admit, in the battles, I kind of felt like the first generation Sentinels weren't really, like, I felt like they were the least useful in most cases, unless there was like one like big boss thing. Like, yeah, they had the EMPs to take out the flyers and that, but I felt like, the second generation ones had the sentry guns, which were absolute lifesavers, and when you get enough of those stocked up, you just have an army of all these supports that essentially doubles your numbers or triples them in a sense. And it's sort of the same with the fourth generation ones. because they had the interceptors and everything, and they still had the leg spike, which worked with Yuki because it meant she could drop the interceptors, and then if there's a big thing, she could leg spike it for a bunch of melee damage too. And of course the third ones, which were the long range. I almost called them Wansers, but the long range Sentinels had like, they had the long range missiles, they had the missile rain, which is something I absolutely underestimated for a good while. Because I guess for whatever reason I thought the range on it was shorter than it actually was. They had the anti-air barrage, but I didn't really use that much because it was pretty rare for a flying enemy to get close. The rail guns, which were good too for just swarming out a line, and they did good damage. Like Tomi got to shoot them twice. Kitara got the big one. The homing and hunter missiles were good. That's no head too. And the super large missile, which was essentially a nuke, was really, really good. Though it had, it makes sense that it would have such a long cooldown and take so much EP and everything. But yeah, like I said, I think I wound up enjoying this more than I thought I would when I first started playing it. Because when I first started playing, I wasn't sure that guy was. It was a bit of a case at first of, oh hey, I know that so and so, I'd be like, oh hey, it's Erica Mendez doing Natsuno, and oh hey, Christina V is doing Megami, and Allegra Clark's doing Iori, and all that stuff. It was just sort of. It was just sort of one of those things. You're like, oh, hey, I recognize so-and-so, and that sort of was like a neat tidbit, but I did get pretty... Yeah, I do have to say I wound up being pretty invested in this, and I am satisfied with how it ended. Well, I'd be interested to see if they try and do another game in this sort of vein, but, if they don't, I think that's fine. I think this is good. It's just like a standalone thing, because I can see them being worried that making another thing might sort of taint the memory. Well, not taint the memories, but like be seen as like just a copy or just doing too much of the same thing, or either being not enough, like what this one was. But I realize that I've been rambling too long on this now. I think so. I'll wrap this up here. I'll probably get back to putting more Tales of Arise stuff on soon. Here I am talking like this, actually. Anybody watching this again? But yeah, I'll probably put Tales of Arise since I think I'm actually really, really close to it. And yeah, I'm trying to figure out what to do next. Because it's like, do I do Control? Do I do Scarlet Nexus? Do I do this other game called Time Spinner I've been looking at playing? Do I do Persona 5 Strikers? Though I would be shocked if that entire game wasn't just gameplay recording blocked, so that'll be oops. So that'll be a no, because if something's blocked for gameplay recording, I can't put any of it up. That's unfortunately how it is. Because I don't have like the equipment or the software or whatever for it, and I don't think my laptop would be the best for that sort of thing anyway. But in the meantime, calling it for here, so until next time, take it easy.